Hi, and a very warm welcome to the Coaching Life Pod, and I'm your host, Rich Hunter Rice. Hi, and a very warm welcome to episode 2 of the Coaching Life Pod. And thank you to everyone for all your comments and all your feedback from episode 1. Who the fuck is RHR? And if you've missed it, please go back and that will tell you all about me and give you a bit more insight into what to expect over the coming season 1 of the Coaching Life Pod. So we're going to be mixing up the episodes. I want to do a mixture to keep you interested in what's going on. So certain ones will be just me talking, me emptying my brain, talking about my experiences with Minerva Growth, my coaching business, and also MG Momentum, my signature coaching program, and things that I'm seeing in market trends, etc. And then the other type of episodes I shall be launching are going to be interviews with amazing coaches that I come across on my travels. And this is exactly what's going to happen today. So episode 2 is an amazing interview I recorded all the way back in January with Gary Bates, a Brit living over in Oz. And my God, he's got an amazing story, an amazing journey as to where he is coaching and to why he is where he is right now today. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode and I will catch up with you at the end. Welcome to the podcast. So the first question is always going to be the same one, which is, who are you, where are you, and what do you do, please?
All right. So I'm Gary Bates. I'm currently having a beautiful evening in Brisbane. So I've lived in Australia now for 26 years. So yeah, it's just ticked over. So I'm probably more Australian than I am English now, which is, don't get to me. It's, what do I do? I'm a holistic health coach. So I did a Bachelor of Health Science in musculoskeletal therapy and spent a lot of time. When I first came out of my degree, I was working with the Brisbane Lions, which is a AFL football team over here. I did a bit with the Broncos, who's a rugby league team. Just working with lots of different athletes. And I found out it just wasn't pushing my buttons. And yeah, I fell in with a crowd called Mates for Mates. It's a charity over here from it's called the RSL. So it's the same as the Royal British Legion you have in the UK. But yeah, so then ended up working with real elite athletes because those guys and girls were different. Yeah, so I did a lot of work with them, and I found myself really loving the specialities like the amputees and things like that. It made life so much different. And for me, life's like a puzzle for me. When I look at the body and I'm like, oh yeah, how do we get this going? And what's happening here? And why has he still got pain in that foot when he hasn't got a foot there? And just so yeah, it kind of it got me into that. And then yeah, I from there I worked there for years, and it's probably 4 years ago now. I was coming back from a yacht race. I used to race on yachts, and we just finished the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race. Came back, had a cyclone up our clacker. So we had a great run up there, kite all the way, nice and fast, but we couldn't bring the boat back just because of the sea states. So we ended up driving back, stopped in the most beautiful place called Noosa we have here in southeast Queensland. And there was some big surf. So me being stupid as I am, was like, come on, let's go in for a body surf. And it was a day that really sort of changed my life up quite a lot in the fact that wave picked me up, dumped me straight on my head, and I dissected my left carotid artery. So just hitting my head in the surf, pretty lucky man to be alive, really. Went from there, spent a bit of time in hospital, lost sight of my left eye, had like corners and just sort of different neurological stuff going on. And yeah, took me on a whole different path, which has really taken me into this holistic health and holistic health care, So a lot about when I was working with the military guys, so much PTSD and things like that, so someone would come in with PTSD and it's any sort of mental illness and stuff. That's why we talk about feeling down, kind of brings your body into a different position. So it's like, well, how am I going to get this body to straighten up? well, I've got to work on the mind as well. So then it was about putting a lot more on the mind and the body together. So from there, I went and, I did courses. So I'm an NLP practitioner. I do hypnosis. Love doing different breath works and, just getting people's nervous system to really calm down and just looking at the body in a whole different way, really. It's, every system's got to work together. And if there's one cog that's out, nothing will work. So, get some really amazing results now, just putting that whole package together. So, it's
amazing.
It's in a few years.
It's amazing. Always speaking to you. It's just an amazing journey. So, what drew you into becoming a coach in the first place? What was it that pulled you into this field?
Well, I'd say with the coaching stuff, it was different. As I said, like after my accident, I was there was some different neurological stuff happening within my body, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to have to upskill. I'm going to have to change my work and do different things. So I started to get into it. And I was like, talking to my old clients, I've always found that being the kind of personality I am, a lot of times my clients become my friends as well. And it's like, I don't see them as a body. When you spend that much time with someone and you find out about their families and different things, so, and they were all saying to me, especially with the military guys, that they would tell me that I was the one man that could get in their head and get them to change things up. It's very unusual around military. They become quite almost brainwashed. It's they're in a brotherhood, and it's like, this is your family now. You only deal with your family, and you'll find when you work with a lot of vets that they find it difficult to come out of that because that's been their core family group. So they often don't trust people on the outside. It's they'll only trust people. So it was a great privilege for me to be trusted and to be brought into their family. So and that was so listening to them guys, and they're like, mate, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, and it's taken me down a path, and just happened to be good at it.
Absolutely, love that. Okay, so as this is a Coaching Life podcast, I want to be able to share real life experiences about how to get into coaching, because there's this whole BS around coaching about Ferraris, Lamborghinis, drinking champagne, and private jets, and the average day, like I was saying to you before, it's 7 a.m. for me in the UK. It's evening time for you in Oz. It's never quite like that for the majority of people. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you started your coaching journey?
I'd say the biggest ones are probably understanding that any business is really sales. Because it doesn't, you can be the best in the world, but if nobody knows about you, then nobody knows about you. And you've got to be able to get yourself out there and get yourself in front of people, which was it was a hard one for me. Everything that I'd always done had been about word of mouth. And I used to have a clinic that was like, I would see 10 people in a day. I was just working my guts out constantly. And it was all word of mouth, referral. I look after you and you'll go, geez, that was amazing. You tell 3 of your friends, and then they're coming, and then they tell 3 of theirs. And that's just the way my business works. But coaching, I find, is quite different. Like for me, I want for what I do to get out into the world. So everything's got to be online. So therefore, there is none of that word of mouth. And you have to change the way that you set up. And that was probably, for me personally, I would say that would be the hardest thing to do. So again, what I did is I got a coach. I learned about how to do media more, how to, video, how to use CapCut, how to do this, when to post, what to do. And so it's gone out. I would say, that definitely the hardest task for me was the sales side of it.
I love that. Any business is really all about sales. I love that. It's a great quote. I'm going to quote that with you for that. So thank you for that. So what is your coaching philosophy?
For me, it's a very holistic. So, look, I want to get into your mind, your body, and your soul. And when I say I want to get in, I want to get you to get into your mind, body, soul. I want to guide you in the right direction, especially with like physical health, If you've got mental health issues, really difficult to change the physical ones because everything in your body, your nervous system's wired up, a lot of time people on medication, you find that they're dehydrated. So it's really difficult to fix someone's problems. So to be able to get in there and talk to them about what's going on with their mental health and, a few tools and tips, because there's some really simple things that we can all do that are free. To teach someone that's having a panic attack. Okay, well, we'll do a double nasal inhale. It's just like, hold, do that 3 times, and it changes the signals in your brain, and it brings you straight back down. There's just so many things. Like hold your thumb. If you've got kids that are stressed out and stuff like that, get them to hold their thumb, and you tell them to hold that until they can feel the pulse in their thumb. And all of a sudden they're feeling the pulse. Well, what's that done? It's brought them into the present. Basically, anxiety is worried about the future. Depression's worrying about the past. Get someone into the present, you can change a lot of their mental health system. Then I can get onto their body. Then we can start to talk about spiritual stuff and, what's right for them. And, move it on from there.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful. So what's your approach for working with clients? Now, you've given us a few tidbits already, but what's your approach when you're working with clients?
I guess the first thing is we sit down and have a long chat. Before anyone becomes my client, we sit down and we have a nice long chat because I want to know that I'm right for you. And I want to know that you're right for me. Because for me, like the whole ambulance chasing thing, and it goes on to that. I'm driving a Ferrari, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of unscrupulous people out there. Or maybe they're just desperate. I don't know. Perhaps I shouldn't project that onto them. But they're out there and they're taking on clients that they shouldn't. So I need to sit down with someone and work out, are we right for each other? And that's probably that's the most important thing that I do, to know that we can work together and work together well.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Bang on. So what do you enjoy most about coaching?
I would say from a selfish point of view, I love being at service. To see how, I've done a lot of men's work and coaching with like Mankind Project and went through their leadership groups and stuff like that. And to be able to, get someone in, I just give them a few little tricks and try like simple things. And they'll come and see you next week and they say, oh, I did that with my wife. We're not getting divorced now, or, this has happened and I've learned to not snap so much, and just simple things. I get a real buzz out of that. Just seeing that you can help people change their own lives is it's a really powerful thing for me. Yeah,
Is that how you measure your success as a coach?
How do I measure my success? I suppose so. So for me, success is about prosperity. It's not about wealth, it's about prosperity. And, so being prosperous is about, my success is, I feel successful when I'm happy. I feel successful, when I'm making change. I feel successful when, God, just so many like different, kind of lost my train of thought then, sorry. It just, success to me is about helping others. Success to me is about community. So many other things, and that's what I feel prosperous when I do that, and that's what I measure myself on, is the man that I am. So, my values, my main values are honesty, integrity, and trust, and that's an important thing for me to show my clients, that I'm a man with integrity, I'm a man with trust. I'm an honest man, and we're going to do this together. So. Yeah, I think that's probably, for me, that's the success. If I can convey that to others and they can show me that they see that, then I'm a successful man.
Absolutely, 100%. So, to date, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned from coaching?
Biggest lesson I've learned from coaching. Oof. I would say the biggest lesson is to make sure that you're not coming from a wounded place yourself.
Mm.
Like I've seen so many coaches, or if you have a look, I've worked a lot with different psychologists and stuff like that, and I look at most of them and think, you're a basket case. You're sitting across from someone, looking them in the eye, telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're doing. Again, that comes down to the integrity for me.
Yep.
It's a lifelong journey. I'm not telling you that I've got everything totally sorted, because that would be a lie. But I still work on myself. But I know the foundations. I know my triggers. I know what's going on inside me. And I know everything's down to me. You get a choice in this life. Do you want to live by cause or effect? And I know that I'm the cause of everything that happens to me. If I wouldn't have decided to go into that ocean and have a swim, then it would have never been. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Rich, it's one of, if I stop and look back, you start to see the blessing. Like I see the blessing of life, of nearly having my life taken away from me. Because I finished there and got out of war. I spent time in hospital. I was like, Anyway, they said to me, oh, take these tablets, you'll be fine. You can go back to work. I'm like, great. Still had a few different side effects. Went back to work, and my eyesight was coming in. I had something called Horner's, where it makes your eyelid kind of droop. You'll see it a lot with people that have Bell's palsies and strokes and stuff. Had that, my eyesight had come back, but it was still a bit funny in that left eye. And anyway, I went back to work. I was back to work for 2 days. I was straight back in the hospital, straight back in the MRI, and they're like, stop working. It's torn another, because I ended up, it was 55%, which is quite a big. Here in Australia, they don't, because it was the internal artery, they couldn't, sometimes they'll put a stent in there, but it was too close to the brain, so they couldn't. But for me, I got the blessing of a lifetime through that, because I was like, right, well, what am I going to do? I've just got to sit down and do nothing. So me being me, I like a bit of meditation. I mean, I don't know if you know, so I'm sitting on the floor now. I like to sit up in, sit down. I was like, right. So I went up. We have, do you know what Vipassana is?
No.
Vipassana is it's a type of meditation that it's a Buddhist teaching, but it's a 10-day course. So you take a vow of silence for 10 days.
Yes, I do know. Yeah.
So me being me, and I do like the extremes. So I did what they call a sit serve. So I actually did it for 3 months. And here's the kicker. I left there. I'd already booked to go and see Joe Dispenza in New York. This was before my accident. I'd been doing Joe Dispenza's work for a little while, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll go to Niagara Falls and do his stuff. So I'd spent 3 months in the Vipassana, in virtual silence for 3 months. Left there on a plane, Lower East Side, like rooftop bars, and I'm like, hey. I went from 3 months of vegetarian to sitting in Cat's Diner eating the biggest, best sandwich I've ever had in my life. If you're ever in New York, Lower East Side, you've got to go to Cat's Diner. It's unbelievable, man. Best Reuben ever. But yeah, so left there. It was that was a whole other experience, actually. Joe Dispenza. I mean, it's changing the story about coaching a bit, but it will go in. They'll have some relevance. So just to be there and do his week long. I mean, for me, I feel that meditation's so important. I mean, we've had a chat about this before, and I've explained to you how to heal your body. And I use meditation, and all my clients meditate to heal their own body. Because the power was, I mean, I was fortunate enough there. I think there was 1,500 people. Maybe they did, I don't know, probably 100 healings. And I managed to get one of the healings. So you'll have 8 people around you just energetically healing you at the same time. And it was mad. So going from there to all of a sudden coming out, and I was like, oh. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, my eyes opened. And it had just come up. It was like, that was the that, I mean, you asked what things that change you in coaching. I wasn't actually coaching, but that was a huge thing to change my coaching. And it's something I do with all my clients. I mean, shit, 12 weeks ago, mate, I was at a father-son football match playing with my son, and we're in the car on the way there. I'm like, Dan, I hope you got your shin pads, buddy. I said, I think Dad might give you a little bit of a kick. You know how it goes. he's 13 now, Rich, and he's getting big. He's a big lump. All season I've been saying to him, you know, plays in defence. I'm like, man, you've got to come through, like, use your size. And anyway, he came through, took his dad out, ended up breaking my foot. I had a Lafranc fracture and a bit of an avulsion tear in there where it pulled the bone off. And again, you know, so I talk about power of the mind, and this is the reason that I bring it up, is I went there sitting in the hospital, and was at we've got a great hospital service here, and like hats off to them, and they do an amazing job. I don't want to seem like I'm putting them down in any shape or form, but it was a public hospital, and I go straight in, and they're straight in the CT scan, do everything, sitting down, having a chat. There's 3 surgeons. They do like a group thing, and they all look at stuff, and the 3 of them like, you need surgery, surgery, surgery. And I sat down there, and I was like, I asked my body, should I have surgery? So I asked myself in a second, it was like, So I was like, no, not doing it. They're like, well, you know, we need you to think about this, and we're going to put a cast on you. I'm like, no, no cast. I said, I'll wear a boot. Oh, no, we don't do that. I said, no cast. So they put a boot on, crutches out of the hospital. 5 weeks later, walking. I'm now just over 11 and a half, nearly 12 weeks in, and I've started my pack walks again every morning, just walking on the flat, weighted packs. You know, I've got like 25 kilos in there, good as gold. I'm skipping, I'm like running, and it's the power of the mind. Like I looked at, and I questioned myself, because I looked at all the x-rays and the CTs, and I was like, it's quite wide. Like, is your foot going to get that back? But every day, meditation, visualization, you know, that on top of all the other things I do for a living. So I was draining my lymphatics. I was stimulating my vagal nerve with a TENS machine in my ear. I was doing all the things. I was eating the bone broth. I was taking collagen. I was making sure my gut health was right. I was, you know, but what I will say is, you know, I've gone from what would have been a 9-month recovery to now 12 weeks. So yeah, the power of the mind, and having someone to be able to coach you through that is a bloody, yeah, it's gold. Absolutely.
It's a game changer, and there's so much value in just what the couple of sentences you just said. There's so much that unpick and take away from there, and so many lessons for us all. But yeah, that's a great share. That's a great share. Thank you so much. Okay, so how do you maintain a work-life balance as a coach?
Well, that was something that for me it is super, super important. And you've got to be really kind of strict with yourself. So for me, a lot of it's about discipline. I look after myself. I'm 50 years old. I make sure that I get up. I'm up at like 4:30, 4:45 every morning, in the cold shower. You know, I do a little bit of breath work. I go out, I walk in nature, I take my shoes off, I walk on the grass. You know, there's a lot of non-negotiables for me. Look, I still enjoy a beer, just not as often as I used to. You know, I'll do everything in moderation. And that was the other thing. I mean, before this accident, I talked to you before, I use the analogy in my coaching about the feather, the brick, the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't listen to the little tickle of the feather. I was like, get off. You know, the brick hit me, and I was like, just a brick. You know, what was it there? You know, and then all of a sudden it picked me up, and I got hit by the bus. And I was lucky to survive the bus. And it said to me, do you know what? You nearly run yourself. I used to see 10 people a day, like treating on the table. It was like bang, 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 back to back. Physically and mentally, it really just zapped me. So yeah, it was a must to not do that anymore. So for me to maintain that is I make sure that I don't work all the time, or I've got time off during the day. I mean, you know yourself, as you said, 7 o'clock in the morning, you're sitting there with a cup of tea having a chat with me. It's like, you know that 7 o'clock tonight, you might be having the same conversation with someone else because they might be in the US or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's what it is. So for me, it's important. I say, well, you know what? I'm going to go out for lunch and I block that 2 hours out. So for me, it's about a discipline. The most important thing I think as a coach is your diary. You know, if your diary's not on point, and I'm talking about everything. I've got my haircuts in there, or it's got like my trainings in there. I stop, I'm going to eat then, or this in there, and it's non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably for me. I would say the diary. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. That's great. Okay. So don't worry. I'm just waiting for the sun to rise in the UK. I can take the dogs out for an hour anyway, and
Good man.
freezing. But yeah. It's all planned in. Don't you worry. Okay. So, what's been the single best bit of advice you've ever received?
It was actually on Parkinson.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a story from Michael Caine, and he's talking about when he first became famous. He said anyway, he had this pair of blue suede shoes on, and he was in the toilet, and he sit there, and who was it he said that walked in? I got a feeling it might have been Elvis walked in. I can't remember the story exactly, but he said to him, best advice he was ever given by Elvis is don't wear blue suede shoes. He said, because someone will always pee on them in the toilet.
Okay, take that.
Best advice. Do you know what? I've been really fortunate in my life, and especially around a lot of the men group and elders and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Best advice I've ever been given, truthful advice, would be there is a reason why the windscreen is so big and the rear mirror is so small. You know, when you're driving, you want to look forward. You want to keep looking forward in life. Every now and then you have a glance, but if you keep looking backwards, you're going to end up in trouble. So always look forward.
Wow. Take that. Amazing. Very cool. Thank you. Okay, a couple of questions. Don't worry, you'll be free to get on with your evening. So, is there a particular book you've read the most, or a book that's had the most impact on your life?
Book that's had the most impact? I would say probably one we mentioned earlier. A big impact on my life would have been No More Mr. Nice Guy. Yep. Dr. Robert Holmes, I think, is who it was. That's No More Mr. Nice Guy is a read for every man. As someone that's a reformed people pleaser that used to grow up in that kind of an environment where everything was it was an important and you to understand that what's happening behind the people pleasing, and you see how so much covert control, and that was saying I never wanted to be as a controlling person. So that had a big impact on me personally. But yeah, there's been quite a few. Which is, I would say that probably for me on a personal scale and a coaching, and I believe that every man should read that book.
It's on my list. That shall be ordered today. Thank you for sharing that. And that's it, to be honest. I mean, thank you so much. You've been very generous and you've been very open and you've shared so much in this short stint. Where anyone wants to find out more about you and learn more about the amazing work you do, what's the easiest way of tracking you down, finding out more about you, getting in contact?
I would say have a look on social media. So Gary Bates on Facebook and Gary Bates for MST on Instagram. They're probably the easiest because then it's a phone, it's a message. I've never been big on websites. As a business coach, Rich, you would pull your beard hair out, mate. I work via social media. And I find that that's worked for me.
You may be surprised to know I haven't got a website myself.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I think
I think he's
what you've done, the socials are where it's all at, and it's much more real conversation. It's like a battery having a website. I've got one page. It's just dull. Um, I'll tag you in. I'll tag you into the podcast. You'll
Wonderful.
check out the show notes, and all the details will be there. But I highly recommend that anyone reaches out to Gary and just has that conversation. Please do, because you will always benefit from it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter where in the world you are, because as I say, I mean, I do so much work online, which I discussed with you before, is I can look at a body and see what's going on with it and where it's moving just by looking at people sitting down, and we'll do a few things, have a discussion, and you'll be amazed how quickly. And I mean, that's one of my big goals in life, is to give people the tools to be able to fix themselves, because we all have it. And that's my goal to share with this world, is how people can look after themselves, and then they don't have to go and see someone like me, because I used to hate the whole ambulance chaser, of, all right, you've got to come back and see me 6 times. I'm like, why? It's, my goal is to fix you up first time. And if I don't, then we'll go straight then. And, then it's up to you if you want maintenance or if you want to do the homework yourself. But that's my goal, is I literally do everything online. And I give people the tools to help themselves.
I'll happily admit, the last time we spoke, we literally sat down on Zoom, and within about 30 seconds, you said, what's going on with your hip? What's going on with this? And you were looking at me, just kind of was like, I don't. Just sat down, hadn't even thought about anything. I was like, oh my God, I've not mentioned that. And he absolutely was spot on. I was like, freaking hell, it absolutely freaked me out. But your skills are amazing.
Well, the amazing thing about it is it's not just structure, and you got to understand there's things like your fascia and whatnot has a memory. Like the viruses will live and belong there, and then your nervous system and stuff. And it's to give someone the tools to be able to change that stuff. Just so powerful. And I love that. There's so much free stuff we can do, like breathing and just simple things. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you are a breath of fresh air to the industry, mate. You really are. Keep up the good work. That's what I say to you. Keep up the good work, yeah?
That's the intention.
Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I feel like we'll be talking quite soon and quite regularly in the future.
Cool. I've got lots more stuff that I can help out with, man.
So there you are. Amazing. We recorded that back in January, and at the time of recording this is early June. So there's been a few months in between, but oh my God, there's so many nuggets of amazing information and great sharing there from Gary. So again, Gary, really appreciative of your time and for doing this. There's some absolutely amazing tidbits in there. Any business is all about sales. Absolutely. I highly recommend you go and check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover, and I will put a link into the show notes, so you can a link to Amazon, so you can go and find the book, download it, order the physical book, whatever. Because again, it's on my list. I think it's second or third from now to actually go and read it, but it's sitting on the shelf, so I look forward to hitting that. And there we are. That is the end of episode 2. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much. Any comments, please get in contact. Any ideas of future guests you'd like to hear, again, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Coaching Life Pod. And we will see you same time, same place next week.